When my husband, Ethan, looked me straight in the eye and said, "Take your belongings and get out," he wore the same smug smile I'd watched grow over the last 6 months. Behind him stood the woman he'd been secretly seeing, 28 years old, designer handbag over one shoulder, acting like she'd already won. "I'm done pretending," Ethan said. "This is my house now." I stared at him for a long moment. Not because I was heartbroken. Because I couldn't believe he had forgotten one very important detail. Every single piece of furniture. Every appliance. Every painting. Even the luxury SUV parked outside. Had been purchased by me. 5 years earlier, I'd sold the software company I built from my garage for over $18 million. My attorney had insisted on one thing before I married Ethan. Never mix your premarital assets. So I didn't. The house, purchased entirely with my money. The title, only in my name. Every receipt, saved in cloud storage. Even the expensive kitchen Ethan loved showing off to guests had been paid for with my American Express account. Ethan never cared about paperwork. He assumed that because we were married, everything automatically belonged to both of us. He was wrong. Very wrong. Still, I smiled politely. "Okay," I said quietly. "I'll take my belongings." His girlfriend laughed. "Looks like you'll only need one suitcase." I smiled even wider. Neither of them realized what those words actually meant. The next morning, while Ethan left for work thinking he'd won, I made exactly 3 phone calls. One to my attorney, one to a moving company, and one to the county sheriff's office. By sunrise the following day, 3 massive moving trucks rolled into the driveway. And Ethan had absolutely no idea his entire world was about to disappear. At exactly 8 a.m., the first moving truck backed into the driveway. Then came the second, then the third. Neighbors peeked through their curtains, wondering why 3 professional movers were lining up outside one of the nicest homes in the neighborhood. I stepped out of my car wearing jeans, a white blouse, and sunglasses. Beside me stood my attorney, Claire, carrying a thick binder. A sheriff's deputy greeted us with a polite nod. "Morning, Ms. Carter. We'll keep the peace while your property is removed." "Thank you, Deputy." Within minutes, the movers began carrying out the living room furniture. The Italian leather sectional, the custom walnut coffee table, the 85-inch television, the Persian rug. Every item was checked against a printed inventory with matching purchase receipts. Around 8:30, Ethan's black SUV pulled into the driveway. He slammed on the brakes. "What the hell is going on?" He jumped out and ran toward the movers. "Stop. Put that back. That's my couch." One of the movers calmly replied, "Sir, we've been instructed by the legal owner to remove her property." "I'm the homeowner." Claire stepped forward. "No, Mr. Carter. You're a resident. The homeowner is my client." She handed him copies of the property deed. His face immediately lost its color. "No. That's impossible." "It isn't." He flipped through the papers, growing more frustrated with every page. "The house is only in her name." "Correct. And all these receipts. My client purchased every single item before or during the marriage using separate funds that remained legally hers." His girlfriend, Madison, walked outside wearing a silk robe. "Ethan, what's happening?" "They're stealing our furniture." Claire smiled politely. No, ma'am. We're collecting Ms. Carter's property. Madison looked around as movers carried away the dining table she loved posting on Instagram. Then they removed the designer chandelier, the artwork, the grand piano, even the coffee machine disappeared. What are we supposed to use? She whispered. I looked directly at her. The same thing you used when you decided to move into someone else's marriage. Her smile vanished instantly. By noon, the house echoed with emptiness. Every bedroom looked abandoned. The closets were bare. The garage had been cleared. Even the patio furniture and outdoor grill were loaded onto the trucks. Ethan stood in the middle of the living room. The only things left were his clothes, a mattress, and a folding chair the movers had brought for their paperwork. Then the sheriff walked over with one final envelope. Mr. Carter, you've also been served. Ethan opened it. His hands began to shake. What is this? Claire answered before I could. My client has officially filed for divorce. But I thought she'd fight for this marriage. I looked him straight in the eyes. I don't fight for people who already walked away. As I turned toward my car, Ethan shouted one last desperate question. Where are you taking everything? I smiled. To my new home. Then I drove away, believing the worst was finally over. I had no idea that 2 days later, Ethan would make one desperate move that would change everything. 2 days after I moved everything into my new lakefront home outside Seattle, I finally slept through the night. For the first time in months, there were no lies, no whispered phone calls, and no pretending everything was fine. Then my phone rang. It was my attorney, Claire. You need to turn on the news. My stomach tightened. A local reporter stood outside my old house. The headline read, Businesswoman accused of leaving husband homeless during divorce. Ethan was standing in front of the cameras, looking exhausted and wearing clothes that hadn't been ironed in days. I gave everything to my wife, he told the reporter. Then she threw me out with nothing. I almost laughed. He conveniently forgot to mention that he had cheated, or that he had tried to kick me out of my own house. Within hours, social media exploded. Some people called me heartless. Others demanded I give the poor man another chance. Claire called again. Don't respond. So we just let him lie. No, she said calmly. We let the evidence speak. The next morning, she held a press conference. She didn't insult Ethan. She didn't raise her voice. She simply projected document after document onto a large screen. The house deed, the purchase contracts, the furniture receipts, the vehicle titles, bank records showing every payment came from my separate business account. Then she played security camera footage from the night Ethan had told me to leave. The room fell silent. The video clearly showed him saying, "Take your belongings and get out." Then it showed his girlfriend laughing. Reporters immediately began asking different questions. So, she only removed what legally belonged to her. Correct. And the husband attempted to remove the legal homeowner. Yes. The story changed overnight. News channels that had criticized me now apologized. Comment sections filled with messages like, "He really thought he owned everything. Never underestimate a woman who keeps receipts. Cheating was bad enough, lying made it worse." But Ethan still wasn't finished. 3 days later, He filed a lawsuit claiming he deserved half of my company because he had emotionally supported me during the marriage. Claire smiled when she read the paperwork. This won't end well for him. The judge scheduled a preliminary hearing for the following month. As I walked out of the courthouse after filing my response, someone called my name. I turned around. It was Ethan's father, a man who had always treated me with kindness. He looked embarrassed. "I'm so sorry," he said quietly. "I warned him not to betray you." Then he handed me a small envelope. "I think you should have this before court." Inside was a handwritten letter. One that Ethan had written months before. A letter that would expose exactly why he had married me in the first place.